Obviously, if you read Kant very seriously, his whole notion of the phenomenal as the foundation for causation and all of that, the categories. Of course, we're not going to accept categories psychology anymore, but it was, it made sense for Kant in his time. But if you read Kant's Critique of Pure Reason seriously, which I'm sure you have never done,
no,
what you come away with is the notion that really the thrust of Kant's argument is we really ought to stop all talk about the nominal world entirely. What it leaves him with, he's really, once he develops the notion of the phenomenon as the foundation for our understanding and structuring of the world, that's basically proto-phenomenology. But he still has that, Enlightenment, Newtonian. He's trying to save Newtonian science is one of the things he was up to.
Yeah.
So he's really got to make some kind of an account of objectivity in itself. And he leaves that to the scientific account by saying, well, you cannot have experience unless there's something out there to experience. So there's got to be at least the assumption of objectivity. But when I took the communion, I'd been trying to learn how to whistle like that. I came up from the church, tried it, and I let out this phenomenal whistle. I said, oh, God, it's glorious.
I'm sure this wasn't the dryness from the wafer on your tongue.
Well, I tell you, when you took the wafer, I was going to let God melt my mouth at his own pace.
Yeah.
I never chewed the wafer. Some of the kids chewed the wafer. I thought, no. I'm not going to break the body.
No.
Well, Jean Genet, he has that passage where he says the greatest aesthetic moment of the Catholic Mass is when your teeth crack the wafer and you break the body of Jesus. It's that sound in your mouth, and that to him was a kind of ecstasy to bite into the wafer.
I guess for him that was a recreation of maybe the beating of Christ.
I don't know.
I don't. All right, let's get back to the body.
Okay.
The sensible gives back to me what I had lent to it, but I received it from the sensible in the first place. Myself as the one contemplating the blue of the sky is not an acosmic subject standing before it. I do not possess it in thought. I do not lay out in front of it an idea of blue that would give me its secret. Rather, I abandon myself to it. I plunge into this mystery, and it thinks itself in me. So there he's talking about intentionality towards the world as you project towards it.
I am this sky that gathers together, composes itself, and begins to exist for itself. My consciousness is saturated by this unlimited blue. But the sky is not a mind, and so it makes no sense to say it exists for itself. Now, of course, the geographer's sky or the astronomer's sky does not exist for itself. Yet when it comes to the perceived or sensed sky, sustained by my gaze that glances over it and inhabits it, or the milieu of a certain living vibration that my body adopts, we can say that it exists for itself in the sense that it is not made up of external parts, that each part of the whole is sensitive to what happens in all of the others and knows them dynamically. And that's the way he goes at painting, for example. His notion of meaning is diacritical. We can't break up our perceptions into quela, individual senses, and then sort of try and add them together, etc. Each of them affects the others in a way, and to say that what one owes to the other, we can't really say.
What?
But they combine together in a way. When you think of a painting, it's not just, well, there's a black mark and there's a yellow swab and this. No, they play off one another in a sense.
Which is why he's saying that hearing and sight can be both seen as spatial.
Mm-hmm. Language pathology. The friend was preparing her doctoral dissertation, and she was working on it, and she had a really bad headache, and she took 8 or 10 aspirin, stupidly. And she woke up in the morning, and the excessive amount of aspirin she'd taken had killed her hearing completely. She had no residual hearing at all. She was absolutely, totally stone deaf. And what she then did, she changed her doctoral dissertation. And she wrote a dissertation about how the loss of hearing affected all of her other senses. Gradually, her color perception lost its vibrancy. And, visual scenes for her became blander. Well, objectively, as a subatomic particle physicist, I can say,
yes, she was the one I loved. Doesn't matter. Boring.
I'm an experiencer. I can know this in terms of my knowledge of physics.
Yeah.
But that has nothing to do with the way I experience the world.
In other words, we can conceive of it, but we can't conceptualize it.
Well, we can conceptualize it, but it has nothing to do with our experience of the world.
No.
Knowing that, my hand is in fact a massively immense complex of atoms and molecules and all of that. I have no experience of that. This is a solid, fleshly, it's my grip on the world, etc.
And the way I think about it too is, I know that touch is real, and like you said, atomic physicists and subatomic particles say that touch is an illusion because all atoms are surrounded by a negative charge, and so they all repulse each other, and so actually nothing ever really actually touches each other on a subatomic level, but you do feel touch.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
And the point of phenomenology is not to rival science, again and again and again. I mean, that's one of the fundamental delusions that so many students had when they studied Merleau-Ponty with me.
It's one of the delusions I was having earlier.
Yeah, they sort of saw him as putting up a rival theory to physics. And I said, no. A rival theory to empiricism. No. As he says, you cannot strictly refute theories of physiological psychology. I mean, you can't strictly refute them.
See, they were doing what I'm doing. They were looking for a teleos in his book, and he has a philosophy of ambiguity.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the mistake I think a lot of.
And and that's that was the problem that Jim Eady had. He said he wanted to get all that literary shit out of there so it would be clearer. And I said, no, his whole point is, the connection between art and philosophy and literature and philosophy and all is that the artists and the novelists and all, they know that experience is ambiguous and inexhaustible. And philosophers need to learn that.
Fascinated by it.
As he said, I learned more about perception from looking at the paintings of Cézanne than I ever did from reading any philosopher's account of perception. And he, his analysis of Cézanne and a painting is really quite remarkable. You read some of that stuff before. And that's later stuff, but it comes right out of this. It's a further development and detailing of his theory of embodied consciousness, etc. And he thought that someone like Cézanne was really articulating that in a very, very important way.